getting towards the end of February and the end of Februllage. Today I was out for a walk. I found a magazine. Our prompt is listen. The prompt is simply a prompt. It doesn't mean I have to do something with, say, an image of ears. Maybe listen is more of a noun, and it's about listening to music. I've never seen this magazine before, so I am very excited to see what kind of fruits will be brought forth for this collage. Never heard of Listen Magazine until today. Found it while I was out for a walk here in Los Angeles. It was in one of those wonderful little lending libraries, so I took it and brought it home and commenced with my cutting. There are so many wonderful images in this magazine that don't even pertain to music or listening. This one, for example, I could easily make a single collage out of the images in that magazine alone. A lot of collage artists do that. They choose a magazine, one book, and they build a collage from that. I got some great images from this one magazine, and I'm not even done with it yet. I like that juxtaposition of mixing images, some vintage, some contemporary. Here we have music, and now I'm going to throw in maybe a fashion model or two, or, drum roll please, dare I even suggest maybe this color spectrum image? Maybe? I don't know. We can hope, right? I'll just keep it here up in the corner. You guys can keep an eye on it for me, and I'll figure out whether or not I'm going to use it in this collage. Also on my little travel today, I found this beautiful book called The Tree Where Man Was Born, The African Experience. It's a wonderful photography book with a lot of, looks like essays and such about Africa. I am really excited about this book because this book will probably produce some great backgrounds for me later. What I'll do with something like this, just as a quick review, I'll scan this and keep it on my computer, and that's where my digital hybrid collages are born. So I'll go through this a little bit more carefully. But I think I want to use maybe this image. It's the backbone of a giraffe, and it reminds me of the keys on a piano. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and cut it out for now. I might scan it also before I do anything else, just so I will have it on my computer if I want to use it later. And it lends itself to being put into different angles. So I think I may use that. There's also another beautiful, simple background that I want to use. Not too much from this book. I thought I dog-eared it. Maybe this is it. Yes, this was it. I like it because it doesn't immediately speak of water or land or air or earth. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out. And the other quandary, which is definitely a reason to scan everything, scan this because I may want to scan this and use this also as a background. But I think I want to possibly use either this or this as the background for the Listen collage. these three pieces, obviously there's an instrument being played, so that is something you as the viewer might be listening to. I thought about using all three pieces in the collage. I don't want to do that now because I think it'll look too busy and deviate from any interest. So I went ahead and cut them out anyway. They're all three are a focal point. This one seems to be the strongest to me. I'm probably going to go with it. Give it a little bit of a trim right here. Maybe not. I can always change my mind. As you know, I do change my mind during the course of these videos. And now it's about what I am going to be using maybe as a background and also as secondary focal points. Round this off a little bit. I made it a little too straight, and a thumb is not a straight object. So I'm going to put these off up to the side. I had also really enjoyed looking at these hands. They came from a mailer that arrived yesterday in our post box. And I was going to do a mailer challenge, but there was nothing in that mailer that spoke to me about listen. So I had to go for a walk and find something about listening. Well, that wasn't the only purpose for the walk. I usually walk to clear my head as well as get some exercise, as most of you I'm sure do. And just collecting that ephemera is gravy as far as I'm concerned. I find a lot of interesting paper pieces floating around in the world out there. And the best part, they don't cost me very much money at all. Maybe a small donation or another book or magazine in that mailbox. But this mailer was free, and I am taking advantage of these beautiful hands. Hands are turning into the focal point for sure in this collage. I'm going to keep going back to time lapse and see what I come up with. Something simple you probably haven't seen me do in many of the videos, ripping the paper. There are some wonderful collage artists that utilize this simple technique. I encourage it, especially if you don't prefer those straight edges. It always creates a more, free form look. Kind of like watercolor. When you put watercolor paint onto the surface of the paper, it takes a life of its own that you don't have too much control over. It's kind of how I equate grouping collage paper. You don't know where it's going to take you, and it could be something better than you could have ever imagined or cut out on your own. I'm not sure if I'm going to use this text, but I like the way it looks. I even like that I can maybe make it thinner by pulling this first ply of paper. Okay, now I usually do that for decoupage. I try to make the paper as thin as possible. And I can do that. Well, why not? I have some tape right here. So what I'm talking about is I'm going to remove this back, and I'm going to use some packing tape to do that. And I just rub it on really well. And all I'm trying to do is make that front image look more transparent. So I burnish it on as well as I can. I'll use, obviously, the edge of my scissors. I also have a trusty little bone file that I use. This was from once upon a time when I tried to do book art. Book art is very exacting. I'm not great with measurements, so I kind of stay away from it, but I sure do love watching people make books. Anyway, that's where that comes from. And I don't use my trusty little bone file very much, but I could easily use the bone file for something like this. So I'm going to lift it up now. Hopefully it's going to pull up some of this back paper and leave me with something more translucent on the front, or not at all. This paper is a little bit difficult. It is more like National Geographic paper. And I tried to do it from the back because I thought I might be able to get a better grip on it. I don't know if that's going to work now. Okay, here we go. It is ripping. You want that rip. You want it to rip like that. But you want it to rip all in one piece. You don't want it to rip it in half and ruin the front image. Hopefully this works. Let's go to time lapse and see if we have a success here or not. Semi-success. I'm okay with the way it looks. I ended up putting another piece of tape on the front, so it is more transparent than before. Am I going to use it? Possibly. It's shinier now too because of the packing tape. That can also generate some visual interest. I liked this. You know what? I also like this. And I'm thinking about using this backbone because this backbone of the giraffe is very similar to this mandolin, and I can kind of tuck it in here and make the bone look like it's part of the hand. Something like this, perhaps. Let's see. I'm making some definitive cuts in this giraffe backbone rib cage area to generate interest and tuck the focal point within so it looks like it may belong. And they're harmless. If I decide not to do any tucking, I still can go ahead and use the image regardless. So what I might want to do is maybe every other piece of bone, tuck my image through, kind of weaving it a little bit. See how that looks anyway. We don't have to stay with it. Every other bone. How does that look? I don't know. I hear my cat in the background meowing. He wants to be let out of the studio. I should ask him for his opinion. Hey, Cody. Cody, what do you think? Do you think we should have the bones tuck the main image in or not? Oh. There you have it. It sounds kind of mournful. I kind of agree. I don't like the way it looks either. We'll just stay with the original. Do something like this. Because even the lacy part of this mandolin kind of matches the laciness of the bones here. See? Kitty agrees. I think I'm coming to the conclusion of this collage. Reluctant to cut this background because I have an image on the back that I really want to use. You probably noticed I went ahead and cut the image for the giraffe bone. On the back of that was this wonderful picture of this cheetah. And I usually would save something like that. I would have scanned this cheetah. For whatever reason, I was lazy and I didn't. But I was left with this, which is kind of interesting. I might use it in something else. Anyway, put that off to the side. And you see, I got this spectrum in here. So I think I think this is going to be more of a scan collage than an analog collage. I can put the pieces together in Photoshop, but I will get something together for the final analog image before I scan anything more. And maybe in the next couple frames, you will see a completed collage for listening. I wanted to add a little bit more to this, not too much, because now I'm looking at this background and I think it's almost too much. I like it, but I think it's too much. So I'm going to take the background off for now and think about that. I did manage to slip in the rainbow spectrum. Am I keeping it? I don't know. I did a little cutting to make it look like it's cohesive and part of the guitar. I may need to play with colors in Photoshop for a background, just a simple background with a solid color. Black always works. You really can't go wrong with black. And I got these hands that I may want to include here as well to indicate playing and also to emphasize the meaning of listening. Do we maybe listen to our partners, or maybe we don't listen to them enough? I don't know. That's where I was going with that. Using these hands, tuck this in under the rainbow here. Is that going to work? Might look a little crowded. I don't know if it does work. I'm actually trying to cover up on this second hand a little bit of text. I was trying to cover up that middle finger, and by doing so, I just made a slice in the paper so I can actually just tuck it in like this. With the addition of these other hands, it still looks busy, but not as busy with this background. I do still like my imagine listening message and text on here. I can still put it on. Is it necessary? Does that also make it look a little busy? Yes, it does. So sometimes, I know a lot of people will agree with me. Less is often more. That's where I'm headed. Don't have to tell everybody that it has to do with listening. I like this, but I'm also thinking maybe a little too much. I'm not sure. I am coming to the conclusion this would be a true minimal collage because very little ephemera, really just 3 pieces. The mandolin playing image, the spectrum, and the giraffe bones. No background. No flower background and no hands. Look, Ma, no hands. Well, except for these. I'm just going to finish it here. Happy that I got my rainbow in. It was bound to happen one of these days, right? I think I'll go ahead and scan it into Photoshop, play with color backgrounds. We certainly have plenty of color to choose from. And I'll post. And I hope to see you next week.